Yes,
sir.
thank you very much.
So let me ask you, give everyone 2 things that you think we need to do to start moving this forward. We're all with you.
I think that we need to have unified efforts so that when we call for meetings like this, or when we call for a group, and we are in the process of developing a nonprofit. We don't have a name for it yet. We've thrown out some names for it, but this would be a unifying nonprofit for the entire Venice community. So something like, what did we say? Venice Neighborhood Action Coalition. Just, okay. Right, which would be for everyone to talk about the injustices and how we move forward, black, white, whatever. So that we look at housing, we look at the political unjust activities that are happening with promoting or permitting developers to come in and buy the community for their own financial gain and to the detriment of the community as a whole. And so for me, that's one thing. How can we unify and get more people on board? Because when you're talking about a handful of people trying to address the many different things that are going on in the community at the same time, it is not possible to keep all those things on your plate and to effectively deal with them in the way that we should be. And we need more political pressure so that our elected officials understand that they should be representing the community for the causes that we think are important, not supporting money-focused developers that are here to put money in their pocket and support the elected officials through financial donations. And those are my concerns, but I think anybody else that are participants in our organization or in our efforts should also speak up about what you think is important that we do. So, Margaret.
We try to stand together, and things that come up, we be in unity. And we're not just trying to say everything's present and stuff. We just want justice, and we want to be treated like equals.
But we also don't want to hide behind the truth.
Right.
That we know that there are issues that have to do with people of color.
Right. That's
just plain and simple. But it's not new. The fact is that it hasn't stopped. That's the disheartening part of it. And so we have, most of you might know that the fight against the adaptive reuse of First Baptist Church has been going on for 2.5 years.
Right.
Without lawyers, without paid, legal, trained lawyers, but with the efforts of community people with passions. Mike Bravo, Margaret Malloy, Jataun, other people that, yes, lots of those people that sit on the church steps every Sunday, Monday, every Sunday, they're not there just having a day in the sun. They are there to continue to make it known that we are here and we are not going anywhere until justice is served. But we have gone from civil court to superior court, from superior court with the writ to going before a judge that said, dismiss the case, but you can appeal if you want. We have appealed on every step of the way. We are the we are the superior appealers. But we lose and we appeal. We lose and we appeal because we can't let it go. But we know that we don't have the money, and we have come to a point to where we're going to have to fight legal with legal, because we have been able to get some leniency because we didn't know what we were doing. But we did the best we could with what we knew, with what we had, with Margaret and Mike and other people staying up overnight, putting together stuff. I tell you, I've said this to Margaret so many times, but her research and her ability to be relentless in digging to the bottom of an issue. She has 3 books over there on the side for you to peruse. They have to do with the Venice, you tell them.
One book is on Monday Women's Club. One book is on the effort to get historic designation for the church. And one book is on the earlier versions of Survey LA Venice and Survey LA African American Context, which had a more prominent role for Black history, which was dialed back in both studies. And it's all political. And there's email exchanges, and it's heartbreaking. It's fucking heartbreaking.
So when you talk about the whitewashing of Venice, the early books of Venice history has no blacks in it. Imagine that.
The books that the survey was based on.
Yeah, the books that the Survey LA used in order to have the research basis for Survey LA looking at historical landmarks and buildings and times and history in Venice or in LA,
There's nothing.
there's no black people. Now, you look around the room at these posters, and some of them are in the back, they're not even displayed. But what do you see? I think they're black. So, your family came here in 1900, late 1800s, early 1900s. She's the 8th generation. Let me see. She's African American. You know, I think, for me, I'll speak for my family. My family is United Nations. Literally. Japanese, Kinney, Nightingale. My daughter-in-law, my 2 grandsons, my recently born great-granddaughter, Mexican. Ethiopian, Puerto Rican, you name it.
United Nations.
Nightingales. Okay, so prejudice, we're not. But how do we identify ourselves? African Americans.
There you go.
We are black. Our history generated from parents from the South. Rutledge, Georgia, Social Circle, Georgia. Been there many times. Grew up there a large part of my life in rural Georgia. When my mom brought us back out here to live, she did not let us go back to Georgia until I was 19. Why? Because she was afraid that my mouth would get me lynched. And she was probably right. Because when I finally did go back when I was 19 years old, and I went downtown Atlanta with my aunt, I had a chip on my shoulder that everybody in the world could see. And my response to white storekeepers was flippant, was, I dare you say that to me? I want those shoes, the ones way up there on the top. Oh no, when the guy came down with them, not those over there. So my aunt took me to the side and she said, Naomi, it's not like that anymore. You don't have to do that. I said, oh. Okay. But I'll tell you, every single time that I go to the South, and I go probably every other year, I know I'm in the South. I know I'm in the South. There is something about Southern life. And I can only speak to it from my perspective of growing up in California and being a part of the Southern experience with my grandparents from over the years, there's something about being in the South that still makes me a little bit uneasy. A little bit uneasy. And when I go there, my relatives, my uncle, cousins, they don't feel that. So when I look at the things that make that, we talk about the norm, the things that we get used to, that become the norm for us in terms of lifestyle, it feels normal. But when I look at them and the things that I see sometimes happen, I say, that's not normal. That shouldn't happen. So we have to look at that in terms of the experience that we're having here in Venice, and we say, that's not normal. That should not happen. And we have to do something about it so it doesn't become normalized, so that our children don't grow up seeing things and expecting that it's okay and that it should happen that way. It's happening the way that it should.
So
It's not.
true.
Can I speak to